Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our beautiful stories of hope, which we bring you every Friday. And I have our first guest with us today, and she is Alysia Lyons. She's a certified master and neurotransformational results coach. She's an author, she's a Reiki master and a tarot reader, dedicated to helping moms release guilt and find peace in their lives. Alysia specializes in guiding women through guilt and overwhelm and helping them build healthier relationships, achieve emotional balance, and embrace self-care. Welcome to the show today, Alysia.
Thank you so much, Kornelia.
Yes. How long have you been on this journey so far?
Oh, I'm 42 years old, so this personal development journey kind of started about 14 years ago, but really got into the personal development world and helping moms release mom guilt about, when was 2019, about 6 years ago. And when I had my own profound releasing of mom guilt, and I just started looking around and seeing just guilt everywhere, especially with mom guilt. And I knew how it affected me and how dangerous it was. And I just wanted to start helping other moms recognize that it's not something that's serving them.
So what exactly is mom guilt? Define that for us. Like, give us the definition of mom guilt.
So mom guilt is essentially they hand you a baby and they also hand you a sack of guilt along with it, or at least that's how it feels. Although I've also heard moms feeling guilty as early as conception. And it's basically what mom guilt is there's a feeling that we are not doing the right thing. So we have a definition of what a good mom does or doesn't do. And our actions are not aligning with that definition. And so essentially, mom guilt is a notification that our actions are out of alignment with our values. And so I like to tell moms, I like to tell, yeah.
I was going to say, so the definition then, if I understand it correctly, is the guilt that is there when a woman gives birth, is that the projection of how you should live your life, or what defines a good mom, or what you should be doing isn't in alignment with who you truly are. Is that right?
With what you're doing. Yeah.
With what you're doing. Mm-hmm.
For example, if when they hand you the baby and there's guilt already, it might be along the lines of, I had an expectation that I'm going to have a natural birth and I had a C-section. Right? So a good mom gives birth naturally without drugs, but I had an epidural. So I'm not a good mom. So in order to still feel like I'm a good mom, I have to also feel bad because there's a punishment for doing the wrong thing, and that's the guilt.
So what were you personally going through? Obviously, this was something that you experienced. And then what is it that you were going through that led to a realization for yourself and also a healing, and then how you're helping others. Like how did it show up in, many ways?
I looked back at my Facebook page, and I think my son was 3 weeks old when the first time I posted, "Mom guilt is real." And
Mm.
I kind of said it tongue in cheek because I was feeling bad about something. And I don't even remember what it was. I just remember feeling bad about it. So that was like the first kind of inkling of mom guilt. And my kind of the real big one was I had left my son with a babysitter who was inappropriate with him. And when he told me about it, I jumped into action like, okay, let me fix this, right? And I called Child Protective Services, I called the police, I filed a report, and nothing happened. And so without realizing it, I started beating myself up for A, not protecting him to begin with, and B, for not fixing it or getting justice for him afterwards. And so I carried that around for a couple of years before I even realized that I was feeling bad about it. And I was in a coaching program. I had hired a personal coach and decided I wanted to do this too. And they were teaching a tool called releasing guilt and shame. And I was right before this program, I went to the doctor and it came up in the doctor session, and I got irrationally angry and I left the doctor's office. And I was like, oh, that's a weird response to have for me, somebody who doesn't get irrationally angry at things and doesn't walk out of doctor's offices for sure. And so I had texted my coach and I said, I think I might feel guilty about something. And we released it at the conference, and that's kind of when this 50-pound sack of emotion just released from my body. And I started looking around and talking to moms, and I just started seeing this guilt everywhere. And the biggest factor for me, I think, was that after that I released the guilt, I had asked my son, what do I do that makes you feel the most loved? And he
Mm.
said, when you snuggle me. And I was doing that the least. I was doing all kinds of other things, but I was doing that the least. And I even recognized that he would come and snuggle me, and then immediately I would think of something that was more important to do, mostly because I was just trying to push him away. There was this, I had this future expectation. I had projected into the future that one day he was going to come back to me and say, how come you didn't protect me?
Mm.
And I couldn't handle that rejection in the future. So I started protecting myself from it now. And
Wow.
that's why I say mom guilt is dangerous, because you don't know how it's affecting you until it's gone.
Yeah. I love the question that you asked him. I love that question. What is it that, what was the question again?
What is it that mommy does that makes you feel the most loved?
Yeah, I just think that is just the most beautiful question that the audience can ask their children right now, their spouse. You can ask yourself that question. What is it that you do for yourself that makes you feel the most loved? I mean, it's a really beautiful question because we're all facing some sort of lack in that department, and being able to ask the right question and also communicate in our relationships. What makes us feel the most loved is beautiful. And then you listened to your son telling you that when you snuggle him, and that's just such a beautiful. How old was your child, your son, when you asked him that?
I think he was 6 at the time. And it actually created a language between us
Mm.
where he'll tell me my love bucket is empty. And I'll say, okay, well, what do we need to do to fill it up? What can we how can we add some love to your love bucket? And there's an attention bucket and there's all kinds of other buckets and I'm building, he's 13 now, I'm building the self-esteem bucket right now. How's your self-esteem? How do you feel about yourself? What level is that at? So it's
Yeah,
become
I think,
a fun love language of ours.
yeah, it's like your own secret code.
Hmm.
It's really beautiful. I think that is a book.
Hmm.
I think that is definitely, um, a way that, because so many parents feel disconnected from their children for whatever reason, but maybe they're not asking the right questions. And I think that's a really good question to put on the table. So, how is it that you're helping people now in your coaching or in your world?
So the first thing I did was I wrote a book for releasing mom guilt called Good Mom Rules. Because of those rules that we create, that is what a good mom does or doesn't do. And so that was the first thing I did because I didn't have my voice in coaching yet. I was still scared to coach, but I had been writing since I could put sentences together. And even though I had taken a 12-year break from writing, I still had more confidence in writing than in my voice. So that's where I started. And that was in 2019, and that I wrote and released the book. I think I released it in 2020. But the now I have gained my voice through my own podcast by just talking with people and practicing coaching as well. Um, and so I work with clients one on one to help release guilt and overwhelm and increase the peace in their life.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, everybody could use more peace. What is the name of your podcast and how often, where can people find it?
My podcast is called Imperfect Momming: Better Parenting Through Self-Healing. It is released on Friday mornings, and I usually have a guest who shares some wisdom, and you guys get to eavesdrop on our amazing conversations.
Awesome. And your book, where can people find that?
You can find it on my website, alysialyons.com/books, or on Amazon and everywhere books are sold.
What's the name of the book again?
It's called Good Mom Rules: Ditch Mom Guilt and Find Your Happy.
Yeah, that's great. Good mom rules. I love that. I mean, in order for good mom to rule, good mom has to be able to define, what a good mom is. And
Mhm.
I think I'm sure you talk about that in your book, to
Mhm.
being
What
able
are
to,
your rules?
yeah, to define, what a good mom is. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that question, which was, how do you show your son you love him, and what do you do? And so
I'll give
that,
props to the love languages book, the five love languages, because and I just simplified it down to what a 6-year-old could understand. And it was a huge aha that I had, that my dad and I were speaking different love languages. And
mm,
so I didn't always feel like my dad loved me. And so I wanted my son to always know that I loved him. And so I asked him, what can I do? Or what do I do that makes you feel loved? And the beautiful thing about that question is, moms have a lot to do. We have a lot on our plate. We run around doing all of these things, but the most important thing you mentioned is the connection to our children. And if we focus on the thing that makes them feel loved, then we can really do what matters and connect with the connection.
because most of the time when we talk about, relationships, um, and whether that's, like I said earlier, whether that's couples or it's partners or marriages or children, is being able to communicate, what you need, and then putting it back into a form of a question that does not focus on the negative, but actually the positive. Like, what is it that I do that makes you feel loved? And I mean, think about it. If we go through our entire life, at the end of our life, I feel like mostly everyone goal is did they give and receive love?
Mhm.
Were they, the recipient of that? And so many people, you just mentioned it that you and your dad, you didn't feel loved by your dad. Um, and I think also in that era, it was that level of communication as well. And that now, we are communicating more, but there's also that danger now with the whole AI that is rolling out and keeping people more disconnected, which is even where we have to really up the ante even more, which is why your work is even more important now and more needed uh, you know, so and then building healthy self-esteem in in the teenagers.
Mhm.
Yeah. What I notice with the teenagers nowadays is, they're so able to look at their phones and look at all of their digital media and all of that, but they cannot hold eye contact. They cannot give the same back with human connection.
Mhm. And it starts with the parents, which is why I say better parenting through self-healing. Because how many of the parents are giving eye contact to the kids because they're attached to their phones? It's not just the kids that are and teenagers that are doing it, but we're all. I can't remember the last time I made eye contact with somebody in the store because everybody's on their phone.
Yeah, exactly. I want to let the audience know how they can find you on social media.
So I'm at Coach Alysia Lyons on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. What's the other one? And I think I'm Alicia Lyons on LinkedIn
Okay, good.
and
And
YouTube.
oh, okay. You're also on YouTube. Yeah,
I'm
it's
on
hard to
YouTube. Yeah.
remember it's hard to remember all the social media handles. And then you've got the website and you've got your podcast and you've got your book and to be able to send all the people to those places. But, having an intimate connection with your kids is a huge gift to the world because they are our future leaders in this world. And it's an important piece that they feel loved, that they feel honored, and that they feel valued. And like you said, it starts with the parents.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it that you would like to say to our audience before we close this segment?
I think something that you said in the intro of your podcast about unconditional love and the unconditional love for self is a place where guilt can't be created. So, through that unconditional love for yourself, there's compassion. And if there's compassion, then we're not beating ourselves up for the things that we didn't do or did do. And and that's a good place to start in order to release that guilt because the guilt's not serving us.
Yeah, and I would recommend that for everyone is really to look at what guilt really is because it originated from a religious program and it's not even an emotion. Guilt is a feeling and it doesn't serve our physical body at all for us to ever feel guilty unless you committed a crime.
Mm.
Unless you're in the court of law, that would be the time to be labeled guilty. But feelings of guilt are certainly not serving our physical body, and thinking that we are guilty because of something from our past isn't serving us. So I think that work that you're doing is really important. And thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good. We're going to take a break on the Cornelia Stephanie show, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Our next guest today is Ian Standard. He is here with us from Greece. We're gonna ask him exactly where. He's a mindset coach for new and soon-to-be dads. He was born and raised in the US and moved around a bunch and finally landed in Alaska. When he met his wife, they moved back to her first home, a small village about 2 hours north of Athens, Greece. For most of his career, he has worked in mental health and experiential education, primarily in the outdoors. All of these years have brought him to where he is now. A dad to, well, the bio says 8 weeks old. We're going to find out. Baby boy named Zeph, helping other dads get their heads on straight so they can take fatherhood on with a calm confidence that helps them love the new identity they take on. Welcome to the show today, Ian.
Thank you, Cornelia. It's good to be here.
Nice to have you. So, yeah, so what time is it over there now?
We're hitting like the late night hours of having a newborn. It's 9:20 p.m.
Wow,
So
that's
the latest I've been up in a while.
okay, yeah, because yeah, you guys go to bed early. So when I first saw you on Zoom, I was saying, yeah, you look like you're in a magical castle. And sure enough, you are in a magical castle.
Yeah,
Looks
our like all stone house is totally romantic and charming in every which way, and it comes along with all the drafty creakiness that an old stone castle has.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So take us into your story. I love, love, love that, you are helping dads take on their dad role, soon to be dads or new dads. Um, to be a loving father, to be a better father, to be present, for their children. So take us through how that unfolded in your life.
Yeah, right. It's like a long story of me growing up for a long time, being very clear on the fact that I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to be a dad. And that was the narrative that I kind of like put out into the world for such a long time until, I think I had like my own life transformations and my own challenges to identity. And then got to the point where it was like, oh, this is like the thing I'm scared of is losing who I am, losing the person that I've like kind of built up. And if I can actually kind of take that on and have some level of control over it, then I think being a dad could be really fun and exciting. And it's sort of a long process, right? That I think not all of us go through. And it was mostly that like the fear of losing the like fun, super outdoorsy, like go on long trips kind of person that I still am and haven't actually had to lose.
So yeah, because when you were talking about, identity, I was thinking that what that fear was like several things were going through my mind. One that, in the law of manifestation or manifesting, and here you were your whole life long saying, I don't want to be a father, I don't want to be have kids, I don't want to have kids. And then you end up having kids. So, is end up having a kid. So how interesting is that, right? That's something interesting to observe. And then the other thing I thought about was, you saying that your fears of that you didn't want to, be a father and that you didn't want to have kids and what that fear was about. I thought the fear would be about um your own like could you be a good father, and maybe because your own father wasn't present for you and so you didn't want to have kids because of that reason. But you were saying that you were afraid that you were going to lose your adventurous lifestyle.
Yeah, it was like all very selfish, right? And I had a fantastic, like still have, fantastic father who was present my entire life. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But I think that one of the reasons why I started thinking about like losing who I was as a risk being that he used to be a very adventurous person. Like he was hitchhiking across the US when he was younger, and then he had kids and settled down in the like middle of Flatlands, Illinois. And he's a mountain person at heart. And when I asked him why, he said, "Well, I had you all, and I had to." It was like kind of a shock to say like you had to give up everything. And that story is everywhere, right? That
Yeah.
as soon as you become a dad, you give it all up for your kids. And I just don't think that that's actually like best for us or for our kids.
Yeah, so you're being a different embodiment of what a dad can achieve, not based on the old limiting beliefs, but living beyond that, that you can still say yes to your dreams and still not give up your identity of adventure is an important piece. It's part of who you are, which that's why that uniqueness is so needed in today's world, and that you are setting up your life so that you can raise your family, that you can do this in a new way.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just that you can, right? Not just that you can show up still, it's that you should. Because the way that I see it fully is like the more authentic we are to ourselves and the closer I are with our own identity and we know who we are, that's how we become good parents and that's how we become good fathers. Instead, a lot of us are giving that up and trying to become someone else. And when we do that, we lose touch with it and we're out of line with our values. And once you're out of whack with that, you just don't show up in the way that anyone needs you to, whether it be your partner or your kid. And so actually getting authentic with yourself. And that's how you become good. Everyone's good, right? Everyone deep down, I fully believe everyone is pure and good. There's just a lot of stuff in the way.
A lot of stuff in a way, things to have to clean out, but we have to be willing to look at what it is that we truly value in ourselves and then, you know, live that.
Yeah, without a doubt. As soon as we know what we value about the world, about life in general, we can start to see it in ourselves. Just like you were saying, like we manifest these values into our life and we bring them forward. And it's up to us if we want to see them or not. And if we don't want to like actually look at our values and we start to take on the things that are told to us that we should be valuing. And in the world we live in, there are a lot of things we're told to value that I think a lot of us don't actually take on, is when we just kind of get mixed up and kind of get in the way. And then fatherhood is no longer the fun journey that feels like an expansion of yourself that it could be.
Yeah, I think it's so great that you are doing this, are living this, are being this way. And I want to ask you now, and let's talk to the ladies that are listening to this podcast that have new dads or dads that are, um, already have children, how you can support their men.
Mm. That's a great question. I think that that's like one that is never asked either, because it is on us. We're told our role right away is it's to take care of the mom, because the newborn needs the mom, and it's the dad's job to take care of mom. And but you can take care of us. We do also need like love and care and kindness, whether we shrug it off and like put up our walls towards it or not. And I think that simple check-in and that simple like clear communication of like, how are you doing? Because being a new father is incredibly, incredibly isolating, no matter where you are. Often feel pretty alone, and the one person that you tend to usually go to, your partner, has their own stuff, and you don't want to bother them. All of a sudden, it gives us even more of a reason to shut down and kind of pack that stuff deep. So, any of those moms out there, just ask, just have that clear communication and understand that we know it's really hard for you and it's also really hard for us.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about that. So when you're working with your clients, your ideal client, who's your person that will be contacting you to work with you? Who's that person?
Yeah, these are the dads that are either getting ready to become a dad or have just become a dad and already feel that disconnect of like, oh, what did I just get myself into? Like, this isn't me. This doesn't feel like me. And you feel that a lot in your body, you feel it a lot in your mind, and the stress kind of takes over. And as soon as you start to see that leaching out, I think it's those dads that are kind of wondering, was this the right move for me? And there's a lot of shame behind ever asking that question, even if we made the choice right away. But it's one of those things that a lot of us kind of do ask ourselves. You can still love your kid and ask if it was the right question, right? Um, but my clients are those that struggle connecting with their kid and want to like understand that they're providing value. They're the ones that like don't know how to maintain a relationship when it's under all of this new strain. And it's those that also just like feel alone and need to figure out how they're going to find community and how they're going to find that support that we all need.
Yeah, I think that communication, having somebody where you can really be yourself with, maybe it's not your partner because you're, like you said earlier, the partner has her own stuff, but that you actually have someone that is going through that yourself himself, and um that has the wisdom of what you've already experienced, and now you're able to help that person identify what their values are and whatever even the challenges are, because there's going to be the challenges as well. And how do you not give yourself up in all of that, or bring those feelings and energy into the relationship, right?
Yeah, without a doubt, right? And that's the basis of the group coaching that I do, right? I call it dads who talk about it, right?
Oh, cool.
There are a lot of people that just don't actually talk about it. And as soon as one dad starts to, and there's someone else to hear, it's like, whoa, I'm not alone, right? This is the same problem, same solution for so many things in our world. It's just that understanding piece that we're not alone and getting together to actually speak to other people going through the same thing or having gone through it so that we can work together to get towards just like a better, happier life and a better, happier world.
Totally. Especially now with all the changes that are before us, really identifying what's the most important. And I mean, if you have children, it's your responsibility to raise them and raise them well and give them a better life than some of us had. And so, and doing that part while at the same time still being true to yourself as well. So I love dads who talk about it. So that's a group coaching program that you do?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how does it work? How does it work? Dads who talk
It's
about.
just that, yeah, we do biweekly calls. And so the current cohort that's running, we get together once every other week. And every time it's a little bit of, I really appreciate utilizing a level of mindfulness inside of all the calls I do. And then the way that group coaching works is kind of takes on two different formats, right? We get together and either it's just like a collective call where we're all taking turns talking, and I do one-on-one coaching with people, or it's a call that it is one-on-one coaching where, say, it's you and I, and there's three other people in the call as well. But the problem that you're bringing forward to me and I'm coaching you through is nine times out of 10 a problem that the other three people are also going through or have gone through. So we all get something out of seeing each other get coached through our issues, and can kind of like pull the good little bits from that in order to apply to our own life.
How do people find out about this program that you have?
Yeah, my main social media platform is Instagram, and that's kind of where it all comes from. But also on my website and my newsletter, going out into the world. So people have come to me from weird, random little bits and pieces that I just, they're like, oh yeah, a friend of a friend of a friend said that you do dad coaching, and I thought I would find you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great. Let's tell everyone the Instagram handle. Let's tell everyone the website handle. Let's tell everyone how to find you.
Yeah. My Instagram handle is the Dad Life Balance,
Mm,
and my website is just ianstandard.com.
That's easy. I like that. That's easy. You're gonna love this. You were in the waiting room when I was speaking with my last guest. Um, she was helping. She was trying to identify with her son this. She was asking her son, what is it that she does that makes her son feel loved?
Mm.
Was such a great question. This is such a great question to ask. And he responded to her that it makes me feel loved when you cuddle me, when you cuddle with me. So I think, both of these discussions, our first guest and you, is really all about how can we be better parents? How can we release things that aren't serving us and being authentic to ourselves and each other. So I think it was a wonderful, progression of guests today. And I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate it.
So do you have your Instagram pics of your beautiful Greece where you're living?
I try to get as much beautiful Greece. We live in very much so in the mountains. So naturally, everything that I do, any videos I do take tend to have the mountains in the background.
That's so great. I definitely want to go check it out myself because I think it's beautiful that, you are living your adventure life and that how this all unfolded. I love this miracle story. It's wonderful. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited. Amey Deanne is back. Today, we're talking about her Finding Your Truest You series that we've been unfolding here with this podcast, a guide to becoming your authentic self. Welcome back to the show, Amey.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Let me tell the audience a little bit about you, the ones that are just joining and listening for the first time. Amey Deanne dedicated her early years to being a mom and wife. After facing a separation and ultimately a divorce after 29 years of marriage, Amey realized for the first time that she didn't know who she was. Like many other mothers, she had to put her own wants and needs aside to raise her children. Now that her children are adults and no longer dependent on her as they once did, Amey found herself on a unique journey of self-discovery. While continuing her career in corporate America, Amey also sought an outlet for her creativity and started a side business called Resilient. Initially, that was created as a craft venture. Resilient has evolved into something much more meaningful, contributing a chapter to the Amazon best-selling book, Shine Your Light, was the cherry on the top of her healing journey. Now, Amey focuses on connecting with women across multiple platforms, empowering them to discover their truest selves. Amey exemplifies the idea that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. And I heard her say to me personally the other day, just do it. Welcome back, Amey.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's see. Let's look at our parts. We had,
All right.
so today's part 4.
Today's
part 4. Do you remember the parts so far? Can you name them?
Absolutely. So it coincides with the book that I'm writing that will come out later this year. So the first one was trusting yourself, and it's kind of an acronym, Truest You. So we're going down the list. Trusting yourself is kind of focusing on, your gut instincts and listening to the small voice in your head and kind of going with what you're feeling. The second part of that was recognizing that everyone's journey is different. So you're not going to be on the same path, even if you have been single the same amount of time as your friend or whatever the case may be. You're not going to be on the same journey. You're all going to take a different road. And then last time we talked about unlearning negative behavior, negative mindset. We get into a negative mindset, play those negative tapes, whether it's something we were told as a child, whether it's something that happened to us traumatic along the way that we've kind of absorbed and kind of beat ourselves up about. So today, which is actually my very favorite, is embracing your authenticity.
It's so I love the progression of how far we've come, right? It's fun to look back and see what we've created so far with this series. And I mean, and just think about it, prior to these 4 podcasts, that part didn't even exist yet, which is so wonderful about how we're moving forward with trusting, right? Trusting yourself, with trusting your creation. And I love the part embracing authenticity. What does that mean?
Well, I think for a lot of people, being authentic is real, not fake, genuine. All the definitions that you think of about being authentic. And I think especially right now in our climate. And I think it's difficult for people to be themselves. I think whether it's a fear of rejection, they won't be accepted among their peer groups, or whether it's a fear of abandonment that you have left over from your childhood days. If I am authentic, if I really tell someone how I feel, then they're going to leave. They're going to not accept what I have to say. They're not going to agree with it, and they're going to leave. So then you deal with those abandonment issues as well. I think we're taught early on, for whatever reason, that expressing the realness, of yourself is something that's not accepted. It's not appreciated. It's not as valued. And I think there's a number of different reasons why we all tend to not put our best foot forward, or our authentic self forward. I know when you're in the corporate environment, a lot of times you may have an opinion about one thing or the other, and it's very difficult because maybe the place that you work doesn't share those same values. So then you find yourself really conforming to where you're working. Or if you have coworkers that maybe feel differently than you, whether it's religious, whether it's political, whether it's whatever it is, and nowadays in this climate, it is very, very different. You find yourself not being able to have authentic conversations. So you tend to hold back, you tend to stuff it, you tend to, not share as much. I think I learned probably during COVID more than anything, and that was right in the middle of my separation and divorce, that the more authentic I was, even with my coworkers who were younger, who were struggling during the COVID, situation, and would come to me and talk to me about various different scenarios, whether it was, vaccines, non-vaccines, going to work, not going to work, whatever their beliefs were, they really appreciated the authenticity. They really appreciated that I was going to give it to them straight. This may not be how you feel, but this is how I feel. And, take it with a grain of salt or not. But I think people really do. I think they crave authenticity. I think they really want to know deep down inside someone's closeness or their closest thoughts or things like that. But I think we shy away from that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's so big. I mean, when we look at the progression, the evolution of our humanity moving forward, because this is much more. Embracing Your Truest You series is much more than just a book. We're talking about really a movement, because we want and need the true, authentic expression of our humanity to be in love, and to be with each other, and to be of acceptance, and to be the opposite of abandonment, to be the opposite of, not be disconnected, and to not be, valued and accepted. I think that starting this out with your own inner circle is an important piece. Would you recommend that for people, is to practice setting up their inner circle, who the 5 people are that are around them that they can practice with? What do you think about that?
I do. And I think a lot of times if you say going back to trusting yourself and your gut instinct. Say if there's something that rubbed you the wrong way or whatever about a friend, and you have this fear, I can't tell them, picking up the phone and just talking to them about it. None of this texting, because everything gets lost in the black and white words, but picking up the phone and say, you know what, you said something and it just really hit me wrong, or I really didn't agree with that. And just being honest and kind of starting there with your inner circle. I know the few people that I have in my life that I can be, brutally honest with, I appreciate that. And I appreciate their honest feedback to say, oh, no, don't do that, or don't say that, or that doesn't sound right. I appreciate that. I appreciate, even if it's not what I want to hear, even if I'm not in agreement, I'm grateful for the honest feedback. So I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, when we look at, how much we've been hiding, suppressing, holding back, and the more that we hold back and, put on a facade, that doesn't it's not true to our nature. It's not true to our evolution, which is why I think what you're doing with this is an important piece right now, and I think an important piece for years to come. Embracing your authenticity, embracing who you truly are. What does authenticity mean to you? Do you have any other tips or things that you would like to share with the audience, people that can practice being authentic?
One of the other things, and I was reading something about this the other day, was the fact that in order to overcome that, in order to overcome your fear of being authentic, you have to face the fear. That's the key, is facing it head on. And I think, like, I had a fear of heights, and so while I was in this process of healing, this process of living on my own, I did a lot of things to explore that. Set your goals small first. But I think that part of being your authentic self is practicing that, and practicing it a little at a time, and conquering those fears, because it all stems from fear. Not being yourself, not being true to who you are, all of those things stems from fear, whatever kind of fear it is.
Yeah, I think and fear. There's so much fear right now out there in the collective. I mean, it's so big. And if we all just practiced, right? Taking those little small steps, doing those little small things, that would change the world. I think we already have the solutions that we need in order to heal the world, in order to love each other, in order to, we already have them, right? We just need to, stop the fear.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, I know.
It is easier said than done, because there's a lot attachments of, if it's job related, if it's relationship related, it's difficult. But that's why I was thinking, having a small circle, who can you be authentic with, and really cultivate that, and then the next person and the next person, because you're not going to get the whole world to agree with you, nor do you want to, right?
Yeah. It would be
That
kind of
cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, what else do you want to say to the audience before we wrap up this beautiful segment?
Well, I want you to continue to listen to these awesome podcasts, because we're going to be going through all the way to 9. So I want to make sure that everyone stays tuned in to Kornelia's show, because it's going to continue to evolve and continue to provide some great information and some tips on how you can be your authentic self.
Yeah. And then let's tell the audience right now, while we have everybody's attention, is to, get them already comfortable with reading your first book, and where they can find that book. It's currently on Amazon, right?
It is. It's currently on Amazon, Shine Your Light. And also it is on my website as well. You can purchase it from there as well.
Okay, good. Let's give those links, the links for, what's the name of your website?
My-resilient-journey.com.
my-resilient-journey.com. Yep. Resilient. I was thinking about that this morning. Just how resilient, I'm looking at my own family and just thinking about, gosh, we are certainly a resilient group, you
Right.
know. So it's definitely our humanity. We certainly are resilient and we can overcome those fears of whatever it is that we're facing right now, and we can do it. And like you said, just do it, right?
Be yourself.
Yeah, be yourself. Now, what are your social media handles?
Amey Deanne, AmeyDeanne on Instagram and Facebook, and Resilient TX on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Amey. I look forward to the next chapters unfolding. And I want to thank you, the audience, for listening and tuning in to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, everyone. And we'll see you again next Friday. Take care.
Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.